My name is Phil N. Yeah. I'm Danny. I'm alcoholic, and I've had the gift of sobriety since February the 18th of '81. And if I don't say anything else, I want you to know that I love Alcoholics Anonymous, and in particular this room. I spoke at this thing 17 years ago, the year I came from Austin. Here, I was asked to speak. Kyle and Bobby, you were here. There was a few people that were here. I think, were you sober yet? Yeah.
Second time.
No, you no, but it's different to speak to your home group than it is to fly around the country and talk to people, because I was just talking to somebody, said, "Are you nervous?" And I said, "No, not yet, but I am once I get up here, because this is home. This is where what I say and how I behave is not always consistent with what I say. And when you get one of my tapes, it sounds, well, that dude's doing good, and then but you sit in meetings with him and say, well, we really would like for that guy that's on the tape to show up at our meeting." So, but and I will try to do that. That's one of the things that I like about this group is its transparency and its willingness to change and grow, and to encourage each other to do just the same. I was on a tear this morning, and I had my sponsor. I called him afterwards, and he said same thing he said to me many times. When he said, "Son," he said, a bleeding deacon and an elder statesman sometimes wear the same clothes." And I had on my little bleeding deacon clothes this morning. I had to clean that up. And you always have to clean it up with somebody you don't even want to talk to, But AA's provided us a way that we can stay. I don't have to let the errors of my way drive me out of the door. I'd be so full of self and so full of shame that the way I behaved would just force me to go somewhere else. And, we don't do that anymore. You just come in here and it's like, well, Lester and I had a little dust up. Lester tried to help me, and I'm not okay with being helped by Lester. At that moment, he's helped me a lot. He really has. He's a fine member of AA, and I do value his counsel when I ask for it. Had an old woman in AA once said that she said, "Honey, don't shake my tree if you don't want my apples." We're the kind of people that we don't want help until we want help, and I don't want help until I'm cornered. And that's even in sobriety, it gets to be like that. It's like Ronnie and I have had a number of times. It's always been easy to talk to Ronnie because he's so transparent about his own shortcomings, and that's a really, really good thing. So you guys have guided me out of the darkness into the light over and over and over again, and I just have this propensity to go back over there and look into the abyss, But y'all keep a look out for me, and I stay here with you. I stay in the middle of Alcoholics Anonymous. I don't stray from that. I gripe and all that other stuff. I would like to be a better example. I think everybody would. We'd all like to be better examples, better this, better that. But this is it, man, And when I get on my own case, I got to remember that the guy that walked in here 43 years ago, nothing like that. Nothing. What has happened? I'm a byproduct. What I am is a byproduct of Alcoholics Anonymous. I couldn't have a life. I was running my own show, and continue to try that in here occasionally. It's very subtle. I get better, and I'm kind of like a self-inflating tire. You poke a hole in my ego, it goes down, and then it just blows right back up. And but I hang out here with you, and you kind of reflect that back to me. Yeah. So I just did this about a week ago here to the same people that are on the front row. And like, well, great. There's old Mark's over there, my seamstress. And, I came into Alcoholics Anonymous. I was living in an old beat up stolen car. It was a terrible car, and the guy didn't even want it back. And it was a 70 model Cyclone, and it had been running. I'd run into several things in it because I was not that good at driving when you try to keep the bottle there, but at any rate. At one point, I'd gotten drunk, and I decided to fix it, and I went and got some Bondo, and I put Bondo on this front fender. That stuff's really heavy. I put it on there because I was going to shape it and fix it up, but I got it all piled on there, and I passed out. And when I got it come to, I got this big glob of Bondo just stuck out like a little cancer, and it was really hard, and you couldn't pull it off, and so I just have to drive around. I'm already feeling like everybody's looking at me now. They really are. I couldn't register the car. Back then we had different color registration tags, so I'd get some, that year was red, and I'd get Marlboro cigarettes, and I'd cut out, and I'd stick that up there and put a bunch of trash around it and hope that, that'd get me through. I'd had a job, but I couldn't hold my job down because I had a lot of things going on. So I resigned, and I started writing hot checks. I didn't think of them as hot checks. It was loans, and so I had several loans out, like about 30 of them, and I was also on parole for a 10-year sentence, and I was like this. It was making me tense because I felt like my parole officer wouldn't understand my whole plan for living, and so I'm not reporting to her because I don't have anything good to report. And my wife, I'd gotten married when I got out of prison. I'd gotten married because I always get married. Y'all already know that. So I got married, and I married a girl that the way I met her, she was dancing on top of a table at the Discovery Lounge. When I saw her, I knew right away that we were meant to be, and we got married. And I'm going to tell you, she was a piece of work. She'd carry out the trash, be gone 3 days. And I'd quit my job, and I'm keeping her. I'm guarding her, because she had a boyfriend, which was irritating to me because I thought it's going to ruin our marriage, and I'm, I'm just running out of game, and I got hepatitis. I don't know how I got it, but I got it. I got hepatitis, and I remember being in the hospital, and I hadn't thought of this in a long time, but I was in that hospital, and the doctor come by to see me, and I'd never been to AA or anything, and he come by, and I said, "Do you think I have a drinking problem?" He said, "How much you drink?" I said, "Oh, about a 6-pack a day." He said, "Oh, shit, you ain't got you ain't got no problem," which that was not actually correct in how much I was drinking, but that's all I needed to tell him. And that doctor died from alcoholism. Some years later, I thought when I read his obituary, I realized that this guy was, it was like we weren't going to tell each other the truth at all. And but anyway, I got out of the hospital, and my wife's living with her boyfriend, and we got into a little row, and we're riding around in her car, arguing and drinking, and I don't know what time of the day it was, sometime in the afternoon, I think. And she just pulled up, and we were in Midland, Texas, and she just pulled up in front of this nondescript looking building. And she just stopped and just kicked me out of the car, And I was too weak to resist. She drove off. This was before we had cell phones. And I'm standing there, and I'm like, I need to get a ride. So I go into this building to call somebody to, come get me and help me save my marriage. And I stuck my head in the door, and over in the corner, there were some people playing cards and drinking coffee and smoking. And man, the moment they saw me, they were like very happy to see me. You know, they invited me in, and I kept asking to use the phone, and they kept saying things like, if you don't drink, you won't get drunk. And I thought, I think you're right. I'm not sure where you're going with that, but I just want to use the phone. And they convinced me to stay for the meeting, which wasn't really that hard because I didn't have anywhere to go, and I was too sick and drunk to go anywhere else. And I stayed for the meeting, and it was set up like this. And they would call on Steve. He'd come up and say something awful about his life. Everybody'd laugh. It's really very entertaining. He'd go sit down. And they'd call on Rito, and he'd do it. And I just thought, man, this is going to take forever. And but it just seemed like the stories that you told, the worse the story was, the better y'all liked it. And all my life, I've had this thing when I start to come to and realize the situation I'm in, I get panicked. I feel anxious. My gut tightens up. My foot starts patting, and my head starts racing, and I start thinking, I got to go. And it just like a little mantra. It's I got to go, I got to go. And I don't know why I got to go. I don't know where I'm going. I just got to get out of here. And when that was starting to happen, I'm sitting out there, and all of a sudden, everybody stood up and held hands and said the Lord's Prayer. And that place just erupted into laughter. Everybody talking at the same time. And it was during the smoking era of AA. And you look out across that room, and really all you could see clearly were legs. And there's a back door out of the kitchen. And I'm up fairly close to where the podium is. And I'm out here. I'm getting out. And I start backing out. And all of a sudden, that place, to me, it looked like it parted like the Red Sea. And here come this little short, dour-looking fellow. He had a flat top, and he had a young guy following him. And they were heading for me. I saw him coming, and I thought, oh, hell no, I ain't going anywhere with him. And he walked up to me, and he said, welcome to Alcoholics Anonymous. We're going to Baskin-Robbins for ice cream. Would you like to go? And I thought, Baskin-Robbins for ice cream. Be still my beating heart. There's no way on God's green earth I'm going off with a bunch of geriatrics for ice cream while my wife is out with her boyfriend. That ain't happening. But what came out of my mouth was sure I'd love to go. And so I wound up over at Baskin-Robbins holding a melting Rocky Road ice cream while these guys tried to pitch me on Alcoholics Anonymous. And let's get to the point. I don't want to read your big book. I don't want to hear your whole story. I just want straight answers to short questions. I'm a busy guy. I don't have time for all that. And so you'd start to talk to me about it, and I remember talking to them saying, you think I'm alcoholic? And they just start telling me all about themselves. And I think, what an idiot. I couldn't care less if you're alcoholic. I wanted to know if I'm an alcoholic. And, everywhere I went, that would be the way it would. There'd be some form of that. It may have been more gentle. It may have been more direct. But basically, every time I talked to you, you never talked about my bad behavior or what I was driving or what I dressed like or my drinking. You just sit there and I'd talk to you, and you'd say, you'd see me, you'd say, come on in this house. And man, it's just and I was a hot mess. I was the guy who stole out of the basket, hit on the girls, had something smart aleck to say at every meeting. Borrowing money that I knew damn well I couldn't pay back or wouldn't pay back. Had an opinion about everything. You couldn't tell me anything because I already knew everything. I'd studied lots of things. I'd spent enough time locked up in the cell reading. You wasn't. What did you know? You hadn't been where I've been. You hadn't been like it. Your life wasn't like mine. And I was here to educate you. I heard, the problem is people walk outside and, they see what I'm driving and how I'm living. They didn't come ask me how to live life. They were pretty clear that whatever I was doing, they hope I didn't share that with anyone. And that's the thing about this thing, is that no matter how I acted, you always said, "Come on in this house." Always welcomed me right back in. And that's even true today. And I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful for the grace that we extend to one another, because I've said this a million times because I needed to hear it, is that if there's ever a group of people that ought to be kind to one another, it's us. And if there's ever a guy that needs to stand in the mirror and say that, it's me. I need to remember how important you are in my life, and each and every one of you. And there's just times when I'm so important that none of you are. And you wait. You wait for an opportunity to show me a different way. And I'm very grateful for that. Back then, it was, I know that they were saying, I know that they were looking at me and saying, "Well, I want him to get sober, but does he have to do it in our group?" Other thing that I wore an eye patch a lot. There wasn't anything wrong with my eye. I just thought I looked really, mysterious and a tragic figure. And the reason I quit wearing it actually is I'd come into an AA meeting and I put it on the wrong eye. And they had this guy there that had absolutely no manners whatsoever, that just straight up asked me in front of everybody, "What the hell is this about?" And so I had to quit that group, start a new group, So, and I heard you got to get a sponsor. Well, everybody that talked to me for any length of time that were nice to me, I'd get them to sponsor me. I wasn't listening to anybody. I didn't want any direction, but I just wanted friends. So I sold this last week, and a lot of people here don't know this, so I need you to understand something about me that you don't know, and that's I have a medical condition. I had a heart attack, and what happens after you have a heart attack, they fix it, you cry a lot. So I just want y'all to know that I'm not a crier. This is something that just happens to me. So I'm speaking in Tulsa. And I told that thing to that my cover story, and an ER a cardiologist, an ER cardiologist, walked up to me afterwards and she said, "Oh, honey, that's really true." I said, "What is?" And she said, "Your heart was broken and we fixed it." So that's what's happened. And in a very deep sense, in our hearts. I hid things, and still some hide things in my heart that were meant to be, they just weren't meant to be there. The heart is a place that I'm supposed to communicate to and with the children of God. But I put things that scare me and hide it in there, and it's not a storage closet until I got here with you. And you've got to start to encourage me to as openly and as honestly and as often as I possibly can to start to clean that stuff out. Start to because the moment you can do that, you find out that what's inside you is quite remarkable. The doctor's opinion, not the doctor's opinion, we agnostics makes it very clear that inside of each and every one of us there's a fundamental idea of God. And that's the thing. When I talked to my sponsor this morning, after my little dust up and showing my butt in AA this morning, when I talked to him, he said, "Danny, you don't have to believe in God, but you have to act like a man that does." And I thought, yeah, man, y'all been telling me that for so long. I don't have to. It's not how you feel. You don't get to act that way. It's how you're going to act. It's how you're going to behave. And so I show up tonight because I've been asked to serve in Alcoholics Anonymous on any capacity, whether it's emptying trash or speaking from a podium. When I came to Alcoholics Anonymous, I was about almost 35 years old, and I had been to prison twice. I had been in 2 mental institutions, and had been in jail in Mexico, and I had been in the military, and I already had, at that time, I'd been married 4 times. I'd been married to 2 of them at one time, which is very stressful. And you know, and I came from a family that you know, they believed in hard work. You know, tell the truth. You know, speak honestly, work hard, save your money. The 3 things that I didn't do. Everything else I did, but you know, I couldn't tell you the truth because I was so afraid and so in need of control, and I just had to dance between the cracks of the conversation. I had to kind of hold something back in case whatever it is that we need from each other, what I need from you, I haven't revealed too much, and I'm able to move my position so that you can see that, you know, there's a reason for me being here. When you live like that, it's very stressful, and we all have done it. And so the easiest place to do is just to retreat into the bottle. I had my first drink when I was 14 years old. I was almost 15, and I stole my mother's car, and I drove down to where they were hanging out. All the cool kids that I just wanted to be involved so bad. And I drove down there, and I got on this. Well, I was 14 a long time ago. So this is very early on. It's like 59. So I'm got my cigarettes rolled up in my sleeve. I don't smoke. They're my dad's cigarettes. And it's a white shirt, and you roll those up, and that's what looks cool. And I've got my mother's car, which was a '56 Ford station wagon, which is a big boat. And there's nothing cool about it, and I'm not a good driver anyway. And I got this big steering wheel. And my cigarettes keep falling out because I got little skinny arms. And by the time I get down to hang out with the cool kids, I'm a hot mess. And I get down there and I see that, they got lowered 58 Chevys and these big muscled up football guys. And I thought, I got to go. But some guy, and I don't remember who, reached out to me, and he started talking to me, and he got me to smoke a cigarette, and he offered me a drink of beer out of a big, it was one of those big jugs they used to give Coke syrup in. They'd empty those out and fill them up with draft beer. And I started drinking a little bit, and that didn't taste good that I remember, but somewhere in that little time, something happened, and I got this. Man, I just hit this sweet spot, and I was able to do all kinds of things that I'd never been able to do. For one, I could just be here, and I was having the time of my life. That was a fabulous evening for me. I mean, it was a few things went wrong. I wrecked my mother's car. I got my nose broke. I puked on myself, and I wound up in juvenile detention. But outside of that, it was a perfect evening. And my thought was never once, don't do that, don't drink that stuff. Look how poorly you behave, when you're drinking it. All I thought of was, I am not hanging out with those people, and but I'm doing this again. My folks, on the other hand, I had been in a mental institution. I'd started running away from home when I was in middle school and just had probably untreated alcoholism. I probably just needed a drink, but I'm running away from home, causing lots of trouble. My folks had me put in Big Spring State Hospital. I got out, and man, I'm just a hot mess. Won't go to school. I've just got to go. And so I have this drink, and I have this spiritual experience. And my folks decided I got out of the hospital early. They sent me back. And they put me on a locked ward, and as soon as I got the first chance I got, I took off on the dead run. They caught me and brought me back, told me if I did it again, they'd give me shock treatments. So I'm kind of behaving. And one day we're walking from from the ward we live on to the cafeteria. I'm walking with my two friends who are getting shock treatments. We weave baskets together in between their treatments, and I recount their lives for them so they can keep up with who they are. And so we're walking over to the cafeteria, and we go right by a car that's got the keys in it, and it's unlocked. I mean, is that odd or is that God? So I grab these two guys and we jump in that car and take off. We make it over to Midland and pick up two more guys who should have been in that hospital. And this was a very heady experience for me. This was my first gang. I'm their leader, and I have a plan. We're going to go to Mexico, and that's going to solve everything. And so we head south to Mexico. And as we're heading south, those two guys that I brought with me from the hospital, their meds began to wear off. And it was clear they were in that hospital for a reason. And every stop, it became increasingly more difficult for me to gather my gang up and get them back in the car. But we got across the border into Mexico, and I sold that car to a taxi driver for a few hundred pesos. And I thought that was a lot of money, but it isn't. So we get over to the Cadillac bar and we're having a drink, and I realize I'm out of plan. And all of a sudden, this gum is driving y'all crazy, and me too. I'll put it on my big book. There, here, thank you. Anyway, we're at the Cadillac bar, and this big fight starts because one of the guys brought with him killed a parrot that belonged to some kids, lady that worked down there. It really ticked them off, and they were having big fights going on, and here come the local police and the federales, and I grabbed these guys and said, we got to get out of here, and we ran for the international border, and they caught us on the Mexican side, and we went to jail in Mexico. That's what I said. In the doctor's opinion, it says that the alcoholic's problems pile up on him and become astonishingly difficult to solve. And this was one of those instances that bore that truth out, because I am not bilingual, and I didn't know how to tell these people I want my mother. But my mom did eventually find me, and she got me out, but she didn't get those other boys out because she thought they were a bad influence on me. And I made it back home, and my folks decided I should join the Navy. I was about to turn 17. And I wanted to tell my dad, I'm an escaped mental patient. And apparently the Navy had very low standards. Because the day I turned 17, I joined the Navy and became a CB. I liked being in the Navy. And I grew big and strong, and I could drink on base, and it was great. I mean, and I was having a big time, and I got to where I liked to fight a lot. I became really, really aggressive when I was drinking, and I kind of reveled in that because I'd been afraid of men. I'd been afraid I'd just been afraid. I'd been afraid my whole life, and when I started drinking, I just gathered a false courage, and I became aggressive, and I kind of liked that feeling. And so I'd getting in all kinds of damn trouble, but I'm enjoying being here. And I got a uniform. I'm just like everybody else, and I wind up in the CVs, and I'm kind of proud of that because they're like pseudo Marines, but not really. We hang out with them, which is good enough for a drunk. I don't really have to be one, but I hang out. I'm not Richard, but I know Richard. So that's that was a great time in my life, and we're island hopping around the Pacific, and I'm starting to have these episodes where I black out, or I'll start crying, or I may confess things I wished I hadn't said, fall in love with people I shouldn't, so I'm starting to retreat, and I'm not going out drinking with people too much anymore because I don't know the way. I can't figure out how I'm going to be. So I'm hanging more by myself, and I'm starting to change what I drink to see if, maybe it's this and maybe it's that. But it really didn't matter. Once I started drinking, the drink takes a drink, and I'm that guy that drinks when he's already drunk, and I don't know why. I don't know. I really know there's something wrong with me, but I believe it's because I'm a mental patient. There's something intrinsically wrong with me. It's not booze. No one knew all the things that I had going on. We're very, very secretive people, and I certainly was. Eventually, I have a story that's funny now, but it wasn't funny then. I got drunk with some British sailors in Guam, and somehow we got on their ship at the end of the day, and I passed out, and they went to sea, which is a rather large problem. And so when they have muster, when they're going out and they sail out, everybody gets out on the deck and salutes the Union Jack, I guess, and they count their sailors, and they had too many, and it was pretty clear who wasn't British. But we're not that far out. They send a launch out to get us, and the launch comes out, and the shore patrol gets me, comes back, and I go straight to the brig, and I'm humiliated. And I think the whole world is looking at me, and I'm angry at everybody, and I just wrap my self-pity and my anger around me like a warm coat, and just sit and sulk and just want to run away. I just want to take a drink and go just figure things out. Because when I drink, one of the things I notice, I get so confused and spun up when I'm sober, and I'm so, I don't know which way to go. And I can take a drink and my thoughts seem to get streamlined, and I get clarity of thought, and I'm like, I know what to do. The trouble is I don't quit with knowing what to do. I go way past that. And at any rate, I don't know why I got on that rant, but I got back to the States, and I went AWOL, got drunk, went AWOL, tried to commit suicide. They put me in a Marine Corps brig, and they took a little checking and found out I was an escaped mental patient. I got a general discharge under honorable conditions. I left there and went straight to Skid Row in Los Angeles, and I learned to lie, cheat, steal in a much better way. I lived with no clothes, nowhere to go, in all-night theaters, on the streets. I learned the difference between selling blood and selling plasma. And I learned what it's like to live on the streets. And, of course I wanted out of there, but I had no way out. I'm like downtown L.A. And I would call my mom and tell her what was going on, and if you could just help me get home. And she always an easy target for me. And she would send me money. She would wire me money, and I'd get the money. And this happened multiple times. I would be so relieved. I've got the money. I'm getting out of this hellhole. And I remember once walking by a bar, and it was a crappy little bar, but it just looked so inviting. And I thought I wanted a Manhattan. Now, I don't even know at that time what a Manhattan is, but I went in there to have a drink because I'm just feeling great. I'm going to get out of here. And of course, when I come out of that bar, 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, I'm dead broke, dead drunk, and nowhere to go. Eventually, I got out of there. Moved back to West Texas, tried to work for my dad, but I'm an entitled, angry drunk, and he just had to fire me. And I'm hanging out in a bar that's pretty known for its rough ways. And I meet some guys, probably like Rito, that I meet some guys that were taking what they want by force. They had cars, and they drank Crown Royal, and had a pocket full of pills, and they carried guns. And when they showed up, everybody backed away, and I thought, that's respect. And I want to be like that. And they were looking for help, and I interviewed for the job. I got it. And pretty soon I'm driving a pretty nice car. I got a girlfriend, and she's crazy, just like me. And I carry a gun, and I drink Crown Royal, and I think, well, everybody's got to be something. And being a gangster, I'm good with this. I lasted 6 months. We got arrested by the Texas Rangers, and everybody went to prison, but me, I got probation, and I lasted about 3 weeks on that probation, and I just couldn't take it. I had that little job, and I got to keep it together. The pressure's on. I got to pay this money back, and I'm making $1.60 an hour. And, I just remember looking at that guy in that car that was pumping his gas. No, he can pump his own damn gas. And I just went into the cash register, made a cash advance, went across the street to the bar, had a drink, and when I came to, I was in Dallas. And, you're in trouble, so what do? You try, I got to have a drink, think things through. First thing you know, I meet Rito again in Dallas, and what happens, that's not literally Rito, but I know what he's like, by the way. I meet guys that are like me, and first thing you know, I've got my picture up in places you don't want them, and they're looking for me all over the state. And my dad, who's this World War II veteran, this salt of the earth guy, he's got his faults, believe me, but he didn't lie, cheat, and steal, and his word was his bond. And he's appalled, that here's his son acting like this, and they'd ask him, said, "Where's Danny?" And he'd say, "Danny who?" and turn around and walk off. And my brothers were frightened of me. And when my brothers first came along, for a while before I started really drinking and carrying on, I was their protector, their hero. And now they're scared of me. And my mother is frantic. She thinks everything is her fault, and I do too. I agree with that 100%. And I never miss an opportunity to let her know it. And I'm ripping and running, and they catch me, and I get 13 5-year sentences, and I'm sent off to Texas Department of Corrections. And what I can tell you about that, it's very time-consuming. And you write letters, read read books, try to stay out of trouble, keep your act together. Want to make parole, don't make parole. I flattened out my sentence. I called, my mom comes to get me, and I'd already made up my mind. Look, I am never drinking whiskey again, except on special occasions. And it turns out that getting out of prison is a very special occasion. And they come to get me, and Mom comes to get me, and we're heading home, and she's in great spirits because she knows I've learned my lesson, and I know it too. I believe that. And man, we're off, and man, I took a couple of pops off of a bottle of whiskey that I bought when we left there because it was special, and I hit that sweet spot. Man, we're just in heaven. Everything's going to be fantastic. And my mom said on that trip, she said, "Son, what you need is a wife, kid, a car, a bank account, a job, and a house. You'd be okay." So I went looking for a woman that had kids, a bank account, a car, and a job. And I found her, and my mother was wrong. It was the worst 2 weeks of my life. I left her, and I started hanging out down in Odessa, and I met another gal, and she couldn't go home because she was pregnant. And hell, we came up with a plan, and we got together, and we got drunk. And about this time, my life starts to fall apart. And we get married. I called my mom, "Mom, I'm married," and she said, "I know." And I said, "I don't know how you could have just did it." And she said, "Oh my God, Danny, you have a wife." And I'm like, details. I'm always getting tripped up by these details. So went on my honeymoon, got to my our new place where my new in-laws were, and man, you really should meet the family first. My new in-laws were, he was the warden in McAllister State Penitentiary, and I was like very uncomfortable in that relationship. I absconded, which means to move in a secret way, and I get back to Midland and Odessa, and my mom arranges the divorce and an annulment, and and now I'm in love, but I don't know who with, and I meet a girl. Oh my God! I mean, the moment we saw each other, it was that deep, deep, deep love. You don't usually fall in love to that depth until you get to a treatment center. And we're ripping and running and living in Odessa, and I'm really getting psychotic because I've started mixing amphetamines and whiskey. And I'm crazy as hell. And she had to get away from me to save her life, and which didn't actually work because she was killed in a car wreck. And I didn't have any tools for dealing with anything like that. And I just, I wound up, I got a gun, a bottle of whiskey, and I went on a crime spree, and I got 10 years in prison. And it's round 2. This is what I do. And this time I realized my problem is that I need to get an education. My problem is I don't really have any skills for living out there. I got to quit this gangster life, which I did. But that was my idea, And then I'm also very deeply interested in psychology because I'm crazy, and I know that. And I know that if I can figure out what happened, why I wound up in a mental institution at 14, that's the ticket. And then I won't have to drink like this, and I won't act this way, and I won't have to be constantly explaining myself, and my parents can take responsibility for what they did to me. That was honest to God truth. That is the craziest thoughts. And I get out, and it's the same old thing. I get out and meet that girl that brought me to AA, and I start running, and in no time I've created a whole new mess. And I'm running from you guys from one place to the other, and running from the law. And I wound up in Austin, Texas, and I'm going to AA there because it's the safest place to go, and it's the only place where they still invite you back, and you can live underground in AA actually. And so I'm in Austin, and I'm going to some meetings, and one day I get up and angry at a meeting I was in. Went and bought a 6-pack of beer and went on a drunk. And when I came to, I was in the back seat of an old beat up car, and I was puking blood and bile. And I just remember I had 3 old Milwaukee beers left, and I just leaned out of that car and puked. And I said, God, I'd do anything if I could get sober. And it wasn't long after that 2 guys come to get me. It was John Henry, who was my sponsor, and a young guy was with him. And I rode back with John Henry in the car, and on the way back I said, John Henry, what am I going to do? And he said, Danny, if you don't drink, you won't get drunk. I said, well, how do you do that? And he said, well, don't drink right now. And then when it's right now again, don't drink then either. And that kid said, yeah, and pretty soon you'll have like a minute. And John Henry said, you don't pay any attention to him. He said, let me tell you something. You join us in this thing we do. You do what we do, and you'll find yourself a sober, self-respecting member of Alcoholics Anonymous with a host of friends and a relationship with the power that runs this universe. And I'm telling you, drunk on the way to the club, I was smitten with a magnificent obsession for sobriety. I wanted to be with you and like you more than anything else in the world. And all of a sudden, I'm showing up at the club early in the morning, and I'm helping them set the chairs up, and I'm helping them do the things they need done so that the drunks can come in. And I'm listening to those old men talk, and now they're not shunning me. They're kind of watching me, and they're doing their stuff, and when they talk, I get close and I listen. And it wasn't long till one of them said, you're doing good, kid. And he gave me this big shoebox full of cassette tapes and a battery-powered cassette player, and I ride around that car. And I would listen to those tapes, and I'd laugh, and I'd cry, and I'd be amazed. And I remember one tape said, just let go. Just let go and let God. And I thought, let God do what? And then I thought, John Henry will know. And I drove up to the club, and John Henry was standing out there, and I just got out of that car, and I walked toward him, and that's when I just looked at him, I said, man, John Henry, I'm a drunk. I'm an alcoholic. He said, yeah, you are. He said, so come on in this house. And we went in, and we started the process of going through the steps. And he told me about himself. And he was very open and very honest, and it gave me permission to kind of come out from the shadows. And he told me, he said, Danny, there's people going to Alcoholics Anonymous that they seem to be able to come in here and sit down and just be okay. And that just seems to work for them. They quit drinking, they got better, they're doing this thing. He said, that's none of my concern. He said, but there are others who, no matter what they do, they're going to drink again. you will not stay sober. And he said, you're one of those like me. You can't do it. And I said, I know. And he said, are you through? And I said, I wish to hell I was. But I always drink again. He said, that's the problem, isn't it? I said, yes, sir, it is. And he said, well, we have a way to deal with that. But you're going to have to decide that this is something you want to do more than anything else. That, as the book says, you're willing to go to any length to have this gift. And I believe that to my heart, to this moment, that I was very, very much willing to do that. I got on my knees and I said a prayer, and I had a very big spiritual experience, which was, to me, was very amazing. And I come out of that after that fifth step, and I just felt wonderful and free. And I've arrived. Everything that you're looking for in Alcoholics Anonymous, I just found. I just experienced God as I understand Him. And I'm going to go to the club, and I'm going to start chairing all the meetings. And straighten those old-timers out that have lost their humor. And, I'm on fire. And I made a conscious decision right then that, I had found what you guys were working the steps to get. And this is as far as I'm going. I'm on a 12-step people. I'm going to be involved in Alcoholics Anonymous. I love this and living underground. This is where I'm going to roll. And because the people that I needed to make amends to, they just don't usually receive apologies that well. So I'm going to live underground in AA, and I'm happy, man. This is the best time of my life. I got friends. And I lasted about 6 months. And that old I gotta go is back, and I can't take it anymore. And I called John Henry and I said, I'm leaving. I can't do this, man. He said, meet me at the club. And I met him down at the club, and he said, Danny, what's standing between you and that God you experienced, or the things on your 8-step list? I said, well, there's some things I didn't tell you. He said, asked me to tell him, and I told him about the car, and he said, that's a problem. And then I told him, there was a bank robbery in San Angelo, Texas in the summer of 1980. I was in the area. That is my M.O. They have it on videotape, I hear. They've talked to my parole officer and my family. They're looking for me. And he said, well, son, you got to go in and clean that up. I said, oh, no. He said, you told me when we started this that you were willing to go to any length to have this gift. I said, that is theory. This is serious. They will lock me up for the rest of my life. And he said, well, get you another sponsor, son, because you will not make it with that. And I went out to that car and sat down, and I just had this anxiety like you wouldn't believe, and just desperate. And I just said, God, I want to do it, but I'm too afraid. And I just got this peace. And I realized that 4 walls do not make a prison. Prison is something you carry around on the inside. I had the keys to the kingdom. I could run like I always did, or follow your example. And the next day I went down to the robbery department and parked that old car a long ways off. And I went up there, and I when I got up there, they had a copy of that VHS. And I told that detective all about my good work in AA. And he played that thing, and it's about 15 seconds long, black and white and grainy, but it was a tall, skinny guy going from till to till. And the second time he played it, I thought, man, I wonder what I did with the money. I'm in a lot of trouble. And he turned around and looked at me, and he said, the guy I'm looking for wouldn't walk in here. He said, the guy I'm looking for is out there. He said, we'll find him, but you need to get your skinny butt back to AA, and maybe you can do something about the mess you've created. Now get out of here. I said, I'm in AA forever. I'm not afraid of making amends anymore. I'll make yours. I don't care. I'm good to go. And there's been so many points at which I'm going to balk. This is as far as I go. That's true right up till today. This is my home group, and I believe also if you offend in public, you should amend in public. Lester really and sincerely knew I was in a lot of emotional pain, and he tried to reach out to me, and I really got on him about it. Don't do that to me. But it was out of love and kindness. And in here, we stood our ground, and I called my sponsor afterwards, and he said, really? He said, that's what you're going to leave on the table? That's what you've got to show people that Alcoholics Anonymous has produced? And he said, he's your friend. Oh, so I made him make amends to me. Because I'm bigger than he is. No, he was very gracious. He's very gracious, as you always have been. And all of you are like that. I probably have stepped on just about everybody in here's toes because I've got a what do we say, an alligator mouth and a hummingbird ass. That's, boy, big mouth, and just, you need to learn to shh. And one of these days, maybe I'll get there. But I like showing up here with you guys. I love the life I've been given in Alcoholics Anonymous. It's been rocky, of course, for me. But hell, if you look at where I was at and what I was doing and the way it is now since I've been with you, the road to happy destiny for me is filled with potholes. I'm very adept at stepping in them. Thank God you're always keeping your eye on me and that you help me out. And it's so good for me because I like to think that I'm special, and just like you. And being here with you and having to be helped out when I fall down knocks that special down, and it allows me to be one among many. Because that's, in spite of what you may think of yourself or me, that's what we actually want. What we actually want is to be just like the person next to us. We actually want to be able to just sit there. I believe this in my heart. God comes to us disguised as our life. And I'm always fighting with it. But when I can surrender and interact with it, when I can accept that this is for my good, and that I have something to give, that I have value, and so do you. I love this group. I love everybody in it. I don't like everybody, and they don't all like me. But they're not supposed to. It's not the way it's supposed to be. But it is something to love people in Alcoholics Anonymous and to understand what love means. Love isn't what I thought it was. And it's something that you acquire through experience in here. It's something that you acquire. For us, it comes rather painfully at first. But it's a treasure that you don't want to live, because God really is love. I've often say this, and I probably close most of my talks with this, but you never have to be alone again in Alcoholics Anonymous unless you talk longer than an hour. And I didn't tell you the stories about my dad. I nearly always do talk about my dad and my mom and our experiences, but we've all had those. And they're special, and I know yours are too. And I hope that at some time that you'll feel the need to sit down and talk to me and explain to me about your life and how you feel. I love you. God bless you, and congratulations on this group for 37 years. All right.